You're listening to WIDR Kalamazoo. And this is Wombat Music taking you through the rabbit hole with Bronson Arm.
How's it going?
It is fantastic. I'm so happy to have you guys in the studio. I was just saying, I think I've been a big fan, like following your band for like a few years.
Oh, thank you.
And, you know, this is just a very special moment having you here. So, how about you tell everybody who we have in the studio today?
My name's Garrett Yates, and I play drums.
I'm Blake Bickel, and I play baritone guitar and sing and scream.
So, do you play any other instruments besides those, or are those your main?
That's what that's what I do, and he does in the band. But I think both of us are, constantly picking up new instruments and messing around and getting comfortable and just having fun.
Yeah, mostly drums for me, but I do play a little guitar and bass. Working on some side projects and stuff with some friends. So, but drums is the main squeeze and has been for a while.
Play bass and drums. Still learning piano. That's probably a lifelong thing.
Did you ever take lessons for piano, or are you like both self-taught in your musical endeavors?
Mainly self-taught for me. I think I've had one guitar lesson, maybe two, just learning a few chords, but mostly self-taught.
Yeah, I took cello when I was in elementary school, but that was a long time ago. Other than that, just self-taught and, playing music with friends, picking things up and just figuring it out.
Did playing cello help you at all, or translate at all into guitar, or not really?
I mean, it probably did subconsciously, I enjoyed it a lot when I was a kid. I couldn't really get my head wrapped around the sight reading thing, at least to the degree that's required to grow with it. I'm a bit dyslexic, so there's some hurdles that I don't know if who knows, maybe I would have been able to ride through it if I stuck with it, but I didn't.
Well, you don't need to read music to make something amazing. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So are you both from the zoo, or
We're transplants.
Transplants? Okay, from elsewhere in Michigan or out of state?
Out of state. I grew up in Southern California and moved to Michigan by way of upstate New York after the military. And Blake's from?
Recently from Seattle, but grew up all over the place. East Coast, West Coast, but yeah, Garrett and I both moved here in late 2018?
2018-ish.
Okay.
And kind of met up and started playing music and just took off from there.
So how did you find each other when you came to Kalamazoo, or did you already know each other before?
We didn't know each other. It was, I think, a school function that our kids were at, like an elementary thing. And we just hit it off and...
then met up with the family at One Well, and we just kind of shot the shit for a while, and then started jamming maybe a few months later. I was pretty intrigued by all the cool abilities that Blake has, as far as like pedals and mastering and stuff like that. I always wanted to have a studio and do that kind of thing, and military kind of like sidebarred that. But,
I bet, yeah.
It was cool. We bonded over that a little bit. Similar music tastes as well.
So yeah, Blake, so you also do some other things in Kalamazoo, right? Well, you too, Garrett. So you make custom pedals, or you make pedals? Can you talk a little bit about that and like what you do as far as mastering?
Yeah, mastering is my main source of income, and I've been doing that. I've lost track, maybe 15, 20 years. And pedals was just kind of a hobby thing that I picked up maybe 8 years ago, and just kind of got obsessed with it and started making more and more, and had friends wanting them. So I wouldn't say it's just, it's a hobby. It's maybe a little more than a hobby, but from time to time I'll make a batch of something I'm excited about and see if anyone wants to buy them. And if not, that's fine with me, because then I have more pedals.
Yeah. How many pedals do you have on your board?
Oh, maybe 10? I can't remember. Maybe 10. But
10, okay.
Most of them are ones I've built with a few others. Yeah.
And, I feel like I have a good idea of what mixing is, and I've heard about that, but mastering is always kind of mystical to me. So can you tell me and also the guests of the audience what exactly mastering entails?
Yeah. Well, mixing is like where you have all the individual elements and recorded signals on a mixing console or computer, and you're blending them together to get the right sound. And mastering is after mixing has been mixed down to just a stereo file, manipulating just the stereo file. And the goal is to take a body of work and give it a cohesive feel. And one of the analogies I use is, if somebody was posting a handful of pictures on Instagram and was applying filters or finally adjusting contrast or lighting or things of that nature to try to give those group of pictures kind of a consistent vibe. That's similar to mastering, where it's like you can't, if it's like the picture, I can't change what's in the picture, but I can manipulate the way it's presented.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And also, Garrett, you run the Runoff, right?
I do, yes. It's just a oversized garage, basically, that I hosted a show. When it first started, somebody's show fell through, and I was like, well, this was after I had only just realized that you can throw a show in a garage or a basement. Blake had just recently taken me, not recently, but back then, taken me to my first basement show at what is now TV station.
Was it the Backrooms?
No, it was before that. You remember
Irish
what
It was called like Peanut Butter Palace or something.
Something Factory? Peanut Butter
Factory, maybe?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow, you can do that. You can just, if you have a PA. And so, I just kind of piled all my stuff to the side, and there's a little bit of a stage, and it worked, and just kept doing it, and I eventually got all my stuff out of there, built a stage, and acquired some lights over time, and I've met a lot of cool people and a lot of cool bands in the time that we've been doing it, so it's been super fun. There used to be a dance studio, like a ballerina studio added onto my house, so it's kind of unique and built in a way that just kind of facilitated easy load in, some sound dampening with the brick walls and stuff, and just worked out really cool.
Yeah, it's a really amazing space, and I feel like it's different than other venues you see around here, which are either maybe like a basement or a bar. It's the only kind of garage venue, and it's very spacious too, and right next to that lake, or no, river, or whatever it is.
Body of water, yeah.
Yeah.
Pond,
Yeah. But when did you
It's
start
very
doing shows there?
I think it was November of 2021. About maybe 8 months after we moved in. And when we bought the place, I was excited that there was like an oil change pit under there. Now there's a stage over it.
Do you ever...
Gives it resonance on the kick drum.
Yes. Do you ever open up that if you like want to work on your car, or no?
No,
Does it not see the light?
I hate working on cars. But if Blake needed it, yeah, I would.
Yeah. Well, every band that I have on the show, I have them compile a playlist for the evening. So we're going to get into that here in a minute. But can you tell us how you compiled this playlist? Did you each pick some songs, or?
Yeah, I think it's about a 50-50 split, and then I kind of maybe jumbled them up in the order of the playlist. But if you play it the way I sent it to you, the first song is kind of where we pulled our band name from. So.
Yes. Well, maybe we can talk a little bit about that after we listen to Get No Toys by Carp, and then Sandy on the Beach by Cherubs. And you're listening to 89.1 WIDR FM. You were just telling me about how that first song we played kind of inspired your name for the band?
Yeah. The first shouted out line is Bronson Arm. And that's a name that I'd wanted to call a band for a long time, and it worked for this project. I think I wouldn't say our band really sounds anything like Carp. I mean, we're heavy and loud and noisy, but I liked the idea that it was a band that was brutal and heavy, but not in like a macho, angsty way. There's like a little, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I like the way they present the brutal music. Yeah.
So did you just kind of go along with the band name, or did you have some ideas?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that could work, and like, that's a cool song. That was my first time hearing it when they proposed the band name.
Yeah, I think we floated around
from there.
Yeah, we floated around a few different ideas, and that was just seemed to be the one that we agreed on the most.
So did you pick the first two songs, Blake? Then? Oh, that's it.
I think I picked the first. He picked the second.
Oh, okay. So you picked Sandy on the Beach.
I did. That was another one Blake showed me. Cherubs is just a cool band, and to me, the way they used the fuzz sound on that track was something new to me. Took me a few listens. Like, I couldn't even really. I had to, like, I don't know, focus in a little bit on it to catch what was going on. And it was cool find.
It's really bass heavy, super thick.
Oh yeah. So how have you influenced each other's sound or music tastes since knowing each other?
That's a good question. He's shown me a lot of cool bands. Before we started playing, I'd never heard of noise rock per se, and like what falls into noise rock, and there's some overlap of metal and hardcore, and some things I was familiar with. But I don't know, sitting in the van, check this out,
Yeah, we play each other's stuff all the time, so it's
some deep
fun.
cuts and cool stuff.
So do you often send each other music then, or is it just like, you'll be hanging out or something, and you're like, oh, I gotta show you this?
Sometimes we share stuff, but I think it's mostly when we're, traveling to play a show, and we have 6 hours to kill in the van. We'll just go through what each of us have been listening to, and especially when Garrett pulls something up that I'm connecting with. I'm like, what's that? And make a note on my phone to check it out again.
So how did you both get started playing music? Or how long have you been playing, separately?
I think the first time I played the drums was just like weeknight on like a church kit. I was kind of a church kid growing up, and then in high school, a lot of my closest friends were drummers and in bands while I was still kind of a jock playing football, and but going to like their practices and shows and messing around on their kits, and eventually getting to try to jam with other people. Just taking notes the whole time, picking up what I could from them. And then saved up. I was in high school still. I was selling Cutco knives to save up for a drum set. And
Is that like an MLM? What are these knives?
Cutco knives. It was like a door-to-door kind of, or door-to-door salesman type thing, or like based on referrals. The knife guy. Can I just
want some knives?
Can I have an appointment to show you what I have? And you roll it out and like, check it out. They're so sharp. They
really
cut
are
rope.
nice knives.
This is the serrated, the double D edge. It's different than serrated. They have a whole spiel that you give, and
that sounds
but
more
it was good
interesting
for
than
me.
selling Tupperware.
Yeah. It was like a Tupperware party, kind of, but it's knives. And the scissors can cut pennies.
Oh, dang.
So you saved up money from that job, and then you got a kit.
Yep, and then started jamming with some friends, probably towards the end of high school, a little bit after. And that was a hell of a good time, and always wanted to hit the road and play shows and see what that was like. And never got much of an opportunity with either of those projects, but it's been really fun doing that in recent years with Blake.
I picked up the bass guitar, I think when I was 19 or 20, and just fell in love with it. And I want to say within the first year, got my hands on an acoustic guitar, and then the next year a drum kit, and the next year a saxophone, and just... That's not to say I'm accomplished at all of those. It's more of just being playful with it and learning and absorbing as much as as I can. Yeah, I'd say it was maybe 3 years before I started the first band where we regularly practice and write new material, and I think my first band maybe played one gig, and then it kind of fizzled out. But now that I'm remembering, did quickly get obsessed with recording audio, and that took up a lot of my time. And I think for a long time I felt that to be a serious recording engineer, it was maybe a distraction to have a personal project that I was also taking seriously. Yeah. So I think for a long time, a lot of the bands I was in, they're fun, learning and having experiences and making music. And it wasn't until recently when I just decided I can do both things. Why not? So with this project, with Bronson Arm, Kalamazoo has been amazing with their support, and so we've just kind of taken that and just, I think our goal is just to push it as far as we can. As long as people still show up and buy records, we'll keep doing it,
Yeah. Once you had a taste of music creation, you were just hungry for more. You're like, I can't stop here, and
it's tough. Yeah.
And
like
now
a form of therapy.
Evolved into this project. So, you were talking about your goals for the project.
Mhm.
So where do you see this project going, or what are like your goals for this year or the near future?
I think we want to just figure out ways to make touring make sense, where we can balance it with our, home obligations, and just get out there as much as we can. I think one of our goals is to hit the Northeast this fall, and last year we toyed around with trying to figure out how to get out to the West Coast, and that fell through. Booking such things is a nightmare, but usually something falls into place somehow or another. So it's more like having a goal, reaching for it, usually falling short, but you usually grab a hold of something and then just rolling with what you have to work with.
So where was your favorite place to play besides Kalamazoo that you've been on tour?
That's tough. I mean, Minneapolis has been really good to us.
Minneapolis and Milwaukee are always pretty fun in our experience.
Yeah. And
every show is unique, and I love them all. But
yeah.
Always excited to get back.
And it takes, sometimes certain places take time, like I want to say we've played Chicago maybe 5 or 6 times, and it's like each time just gets a little bit better, and so if we travel to a place and maybe the experience wasn't what we'd hoped for, kind of like in the back of our minds, we just know we just got to go hit it again and again and again, and it'll eventually start picking up.
Yeah, you can only chat with people so much during a show. You're doing a lot of loading and your performance and merch and whatnot. So yeah, it kind of takes a while sometimes to make friends and get to know people, but it's always nice to have that. So we're excited to see some friends that we don't always get to see.
Yeah.
So would you say that, when you're on tour, I'm sure that's a great way of networking with other people.
Absolutely.
So how do you, spread your fan base or network? What have you found is like the best method?
It's really just word of mouth. Just going back and staying in touch. Connecting with those people, and
who knows?
Yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
feels like it constantly changes every time.
Magic button.
Every time it feels like you kind of have a system down, or something that seems to work, it changes. So, but the most important thing is just getting out there and hitting the road, and try to return to those places where you had good experiences, and not necessarily give up on the ones that were mediocre.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, how about let's play some more music now? Get back into the playlist. We've got Monkey Trick by the Jesus Lizard, and then Jesus God by Help.
I chose the PJ Harvey song. She is just a fantastic, prolific artist, and one of the things I've always loved about what she does is she's really able to and what I thought was demonstrated well with that song is the really dynamic plays between really soft and up close and kind of personal, and then explosive and huge, and it makes, when you play quiet and then go loud, it makes the loud part sound louder, and vice versa. And I think that's something we probably don't always do
Yeah.
as much as I'd like,
we got no chill.
we're aware of it and incorporate it where we can, and something I'm fond of. Yeah, and the Jesus Lizard, I mean that's I would definitely say I hold them on a pedestal of sorts, and they're likewise an active band on tour right now, and originally out of Chicago. The guitar player, I believe, has roots in Ann Arbor, and they're just the best. If you're not familiar with the Jesus Lizard and you like hard, heavy, aggressive music, I highly recommend it. And
I picked Help. They're, from what I understand, a newer band in the noise rock. They've just been on heavy rotation for me. I just love their sound and get behind some of the meaning in their songs and how they convey their art, and I like them a lot. They do some cool like activism and politics that I align with. Listened to a cool podcast recently with them, and when I went to choose some bands, they came up pretty quick on my list, so threw that in there. Just been on heavy rotation. They're from Portland, I believe.
Yep.
Right on. So what artists have impacted the Bronson Arm sound the most, would you say? Besides, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about the artists on the playlist, but...
Yeah, that's a good question, because one thing that I think is interesting about Garrett and I is we are approaching Bronson Arm from relatively different places. So we bring different things to the table. So things that are inspiring and motivating me aren't always an influence to Garrett, and vice versa. And there's, of course, overlap in things where we're, rock solid agreeance on. But, for me, the band Melvins is huge, and Shellac, the Jesus Lizard, Carp, a lot of heavy, aggressive distortion. Vocals aren't necessarily the forefront. They're almost oftentimes more like a texture.
Before moving to Kalamazoo and being introduced to noise rock, I listened to a lot of hardcore and metal, like the vein of Terror or let's see, Between the Buried and Me, the Red Chord, one lesser known band that an old friend is in, Big Infant. Their guitar player Chris was pretty influential. He was just a high school friend, and he was in the marching band, but also playing punk music on a kit. And I learned a ton from him. He also loaded up my old iPod, which I recently found, with thousands of songs, which really over years has impacted my taste in music. So it was really just aggressive metal and hardcore, and Blake showed me a lot of cool stuff that I let go by the wayside and didn't identify with when I was younger, which makes sense because as we're doing more of that type of thing, I see your demographic is 30 to 40-year-old men. So there might be I might have kind of missed that wave being a few years younger. And I've always kind of searched for new music as well, rather than looking back to what influenced the music I'm currently listening to.
So how do you most often find new music?
Word of mouth, clever marketing, and doom scrolling. I don't know. I don't know how many bands I even find from. I guess I find a lot from just being on social media a lot now. But it used to be, like I found a tape. My parents bought a new or a used Suburban, and I found a tape that was like the Get Up Kids and Sublime. And so then you go look that up, and or it used to be like Napster or like Pure Volume. My cousin was in a band, so shout out Rufio. So when I was in high school, like that was kind of a big influence. Like what bands are they playing with, and hanging out with them and seeing his relationship with his guitarist. It was like metal versus punk, and they showed me some samplers and stuff, and then went to the nearest Christian bookstore and bought like an MXPX record or a CD actually.
Yeah.
But just like making mixtapes on like a boombox, in various ways, and it's evolved over the years.
Yeah. When I was a kid, you know, I didn't have an older sibling to show me cool stuff. And, you know, for example, when I was in middle school, lived in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and there was not a lot of exposure to much of anything. But I used to learn a lot about music from skate and snowboard videos. And then, you know, as I got older, just probably more the way people nowadays do, which is just, yeah, YouTube and the internet and social media, just finding, well, you know, and also like, if there's a band that I am into and I see that they're on tour and you know, someplace that I'm not going to be able to see, but see who's opening for them or who they're playing with, and then, you know, going down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out who's this and what, you know, what they're all about, and finding lots of stuff that way.
Yeah, once I was old enough to go to shows, it was like every weekend. You know, we had cool places like Showcase Theater and Chain Reaction in Southern California that always had regional and national touring bands with local support, and yeah, so there was a really active scene. I saw cool metal bands like Suicide Silence and Backyards and stuff like that. And yeah, churches and in addition to just really cool venues.
That is one of the things that is just awesome about Kalamazoo, is how much music comes through here. And you know, I don't know if a lot of your listeners realize that there's a whole house show scene with gobs of bands coming through, especially in the summertime, you know, because it's the perfect place, especially for artists that are coming up or growing and trying to get established, where it's like maybe they hit Detroit, maybe they can land something in Chicago, but in between, Kalamazoo's right there. And Kalamazoo tends to host a lot of just fantastic bands. Not to mention the local bands. There's just so much awesome talent out there.
Like you. No. But yeah, no, I completely know what you're saying, because you know, I run a venue and there are tons of local bands and artists who are, you know, maybe they've been around for 10 years, maybe they're just like starting up, and you know, that's the beautiful thing. You could just like walk around downtown or walk around the Vine neighborhood and you're like, I hear music.
Exactly.
Probably, you know, and that could be one Friday night, like 3 shows going on or something. So
yeah, I remember when first moved here, sitting on my porch and being able to discern 3 different shows going on and trying to decide which way I wanted to walk to go figure out where it was, you know. And it's a very welcoming community, and everyone is generally really respectful and accepting of all different types of music, and it's awesome. I think I feel very fortunate to be living here and a part of it.
It's very, vibrant and diverse in that way too. Whereas, you can find like, a noise rock band, two-piece, and then you can find some great like hip hop artists, or some straight like punk or experimental.
Yeah, it's all over the map.
So, yeah. All right. Well, how about we get into the next couple of songs? And the next one is You.
Dream Decay, and the
Yes.
album is You.
Okay. Dream Decay.
Y with a U and an umlaut.
Yes. Is that like German?
I don't know.
And then Life is Alright by Karl Marx. Not to be confused with Karl Marx. And we are deep in the rabbit hole with
Bronson Arm.
S. So we're nearing the end of the evening here, or I guess like the last third of it, at least. There's still a little bit more. So, yeah. Something I wanted to ask you is, how have you both managed, your balanced your personal life and then also your musical and creative endeavors?
I think that's an ongoing challenge to balance. There's times where things just naturally flow together, and then there's times where they kind of clash together. So it's just trying to do best with time management, which is tough with ADHD.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to not fall into the trap of like tour being kind of like your vacation. It's like, except a little bit easier. It's like you can make enough money to sustain it while you're out. You get paid for a gig and whatnot, and you get the gas money, so it can be sustainable. But I got to get better at scheduling family vacations as well, which can be just a different type of endeavor. But yeah, so there's always little things that we learn along the way to better make it work.
Yeah. I think we've figured out how to make it pay for itself. The band pays for the band stuff. So ideally, a goal of ours would be to have the band pay for band stuff and home stuff. That would be cool.
And shout out to our supportive partners.
Absolutely.
Because we really couldn't balance anything without them.
Literally couldn't do it without our spouses.
Yes. So how often do you practice, and what is the vibe of your practice? Is it more structured, or is it just kind of loose jam session?
Kind of depends on what we have going on. I mean, we practice, I would say, at least, even when there's nothing going on, I would say we still practice once a week. When we have something coming up, it's probably more like twice a week. If we have something, we have some shows coming up. So we've been, twice a week and structured in like, hey, this is last practice, this song felt like it could use improvement, let's focus on that and do this. But if it's a period where we don't have any immediate shows coming up, we're working on writing new material and jamming. Maybe that means working on stuff at home and bringing it to practice and just seeing what happens. But,
Yeah, it's kind of like that. We practice in our ballerina studio, and sometimes in the runoff. And we used to practice in Blake's basement in Vine, and that's where we recorded our first record.
Yeah,
was
that's
in that
right.
basement.
During COVID.
Yeah, and now so we just sweat it out in an upstairs former ballerina studio. And lately, it's been just running through the set and then just talking about logistics and whatnot. Like, oh, we gotta print more shirts, we gotta order hats, we
gotta respond to emails, gotta...
Can we do this show? Can we do that show? And looking for, as much as I love playing shows and I want to play them all the time, looking forward to a time where we're writing some new stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will come up sometime soon.
So what is your songwriting process like?
We go part A, part B, part C, and then just like mix them around a little bit. And if we need to, we write them on.
It's kind of all over the map. There's times where we'll be just experimenting as we're playing together, and something spontaneously will just kind of click, and 15-20 minutes somehow we pull the song out of thin air. But a lot of times maybe I'm working on something at home and hit a brick wall and bring it in, and then play it for Garrett, and he'll come up with something that opens it up, and we're able to complete it. And likewise, sometimes Garrett's like, hey, I've been working on this beat, check this out. And I'm like, yeah, just keep doing, just do that on loop for like 5 minutes, and let's see where it goes.
And he hides riffs on his phone. He dangles in front of me like a carrot on a string. Like, I'm gonna show you a little clip, but we're not gonna play it yet.
Yeah, I have
a little teaser.
Yeah, have a long list of stuff on my phone, just ideas, and because I'm definitely the kind of person that if I have an idea for a song and figure it out on a guitar, in the moment I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna forget this. There's no way, and I know I will at this point, so I'll just document it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gotta pull out the voice notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you still play older songs that you've written, or do you try and keep it fresh?
We do both, and we've been playing some of these newer songs for a while now too as well. But yeah, we still play some of our stuff off of our first, stuff we released, and we'll drop them out of the rotation for a while and then bring them back every now and then after we aren't tired of them.
Yeah, I mean, we released our first record January of last year, and just put out our new record just last Friday. So I think for our next batch of since we're going to be supporting and kind of that new material, we'll be playing mainly new material, but sprinkle in a couple of the songs off the previous release for good measure.
Right on, yeah, so a good little balance there. All right, well, I think it's time for our last couple of songs. And yeah, it's been so awesome having you on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and then maybe, we'll talk about some future plans for the show after this. You just heard Erect for Dystopia by Child Bite and Headache by Mets. Alright, well, so what can we expect next from you guys? Got anything fun coming up, like tomorrow?
Like, that's just so happens we're playing Bells tomorrow night with Lucius Fox, also from Kalamazoo, and Brother Wolf from Grand Rapids. It's our album release show. I mean, the record came out last Friday, but it's the show to celebrate the release.
That is so exciting. How long have you been working on this record you just released?
I mean, a long time. I think we recorded the majority of the material on it a year and a half ago. and then it goes through the editing phase, mixing phase, mastering. Submitted it to our label, Learning Curve Records, based out of Minneapolis, and then it has to get sent off to be pressed, and that takes a long time with no exact date of delivery. You just wait till you get it back. So it takes time, but now it's here, and we're really excited to share it.
So do you do your own like mixing or mastering for your music, or do you try to send it off for some fresh ears?
Definitely fresh ears. The first record we did, I recorded and edited, but then we had my friend Robert Cheek out of Seattle mix it, and then I mastered it. On this one, I had a close friend, Addison Eilers, out of Muskegon, record it. And then I did editing, and then I sent it off to Brandon Eggleston out of Portland to mix it, and then I mastered it. I think it's really important to have, if you have the ability to have multiple people involved, just fresh perspectives, fresh ears.
Yeah, for sure. So besides that Bell show, do you have any other shows coming up this summer? I think I just saw your post and you got like a bunch.
Yeah, after the Bell show, we'll be trekking to Minneapolis. We'll be at Cloudland Theater, and then to Milwaukee at MKE Ultra with our friends in Primitive Broadcast Service. And we'll be in Chicago on Sunday for a matinee at the Liars Club. We'll be hitting Fort Wayne next month and Michigan City. Early next month as well.
And then we're playing
in Grand Rapids, May 24th at the DAC.
Yep, and
it's gonna be killer.
A bunch of other kind of one-off shows over the summer. Yeah.